Welcome back to the Something in the Wilderness podcast. My name's Steve, and this past weekend I went to 3 Something corporate shows, and today I brought along a special guest who I'm going to tell about those shows. Hopefully you had a great experience at your own Something corporate shows, or you have one coming up. Today I brought along my wife Marci, so I could tell her all about my experiences because she wasn't able to go with me this past weekend. So welcome to the show, Marci.
Hey, glad to be here and hear all the things.
I figured this would be maybe something a little different. Usually I recap the show with someone who was actually there. This time I'm telling someone who wasn't there about the shows.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to hear all about it. Okay, so let's get started with getting the tickets. You always get a little bit stressed when tickets are going to go on sale and be released and are making sure the internet is working at high speeds and that you have all your logins going. So how did the ticket process for this go?
So a little bit stressed is an understatement. Yeah,
okay, I really was like, you get super stressed.
Yeah, I get really worked up about it. So, and unfortunately, the tickets always go on sale during the workday. I don't know what that's all about, but it would be nice if it was after work, before work, or maybe on a weekend like it used to be.
It would be. I feel like it's a little stressor in the middle of the workday that's going on.
It's like, oh my gosh, I have a meeting. I have to work around here. So, the 3 shows I went to, just as a sneak preview here, is Cleveland, Detroit, and the Chicago Riot Fest after show.
Now, did you plan on going to all these shows
you
bought tickets?
Not originally, and I definitely wanted to go to Cleveland. I knew I was going to Detroit, and Chicago Riot Fest after show was going to be a maybe the whole time. I planned on going with some people, but I was very tentative because it's such a far drive. It was a late show. It was after 2 Something corporate shows I was already going to. So it was going to be a maybe, but I knew I was going to try to get a ticket and then see what happened afterward.
So how did the tickets go?
So the first 2 shows that went on sale, Cleveland and Detroit, those were, I wouldn't say without incident, but it really helped to be a Camp Wilderness member to get those tickets. I was pretty stressed. I got a couple extras in case some of my friends didn't get tickets. But fortunately, between the tickets we all got, we were all covered and all worked out. I even ended up with some extra that I ended up having to sell. Now, I will say what I don't like about this face value exchange. The face value exchange worked out really well for fans overall in the way that it was harder for scalpers to buy and resell tickets. So it actually was impossible for scalpers to buy and resell tickets. But they didn't know that, so they were buying them up and they were putting them on resale sites. But those would not work at the door. So I'm glad for the face value exchange. What I didn't like about the face value exchange is when you bought a ticket, I found out later, when you sold for quote-unquote face value, you actually lost the fees that you paid initially. And then the person who bought them off of you, you couldn't choose them, whoever was buying them, but then they had to pay fees on top of it. So Ticketmaster was making some good money in this face value exchange.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. There seemed like there was some additional logistics that if you knew someone that wanted to buy the tickets, you had to really coordinate to try to help that person get those tickets.
Yep, I was in that position on a couple of the shows. I'll talk through that I had to be with people who were buying the tickets off me, which worked out. It worked out okay, and I mean, there are people I wanted to go to the show with anyway, so that part worked out. But in order to get a ticket to another fan that you didn't know, was really difficult because then you'd have to be at the same place in line with them and walk in with them and scan at the same time. So logistically, it was a bit of a nightmare for some people. And I know some people got stuck with tickets for that reason. But the good news is each of the nights there were people out there online looking for tickets. So I know people were able to sell. Some were able to sell, some were not able to sell. Sometimes there's a surplus. So there's hiccups with the system for sure. But I'm glad scalpers didn't make, a bunch of money off of this, hopefully.
All right, so you got the tickets. You still weren't sure, I think, if you were going to Chicago at that point.
I was debating because it was a long time away from you and the kids, but I had these tickets, and again, I had my ticket and 3 extras that were promised to somebody, but I couldn't. I would have had to sell them at what I would call less than face value. It wasn't just that, though. Of course, I really wanted to go to 3 Something corporate shows. Let's face it. Like I was going to try to go if I could, but it was a long drive and it would take me away for a whole nother day. So I was going to kind of play it by ear, and I did end up going, which I'm really glad I did because after I saw that first show in Cleveland, which we'll get to, I was like, I cannot wait to see it again tomorrow night. And then when I went to Detroit, I was like, I cannot wait to see it again tomorrow night. And when I went to Chicago, I was like, I really want to see it again tomorrow night,
Right.
but I need to go home.
Right. I mean, you even tried to get me to meet you in between was it after the Cleveland or the Detroit one? You were like, just drive up here and we'll ride together. And I was
Well, yeah.
no.
Yeah, I knew people selling tickets to Detroit, so I was like, why don't you just come up here and meet me and go to Detroit? But you had other plans.
It's a lot of logistics.
Yeah. But I was on the road for 3 days. I did sleep in various places for 3 nights.
Like you woke up in a car?
Yeah, I literally woke up in a car. And I had a great time. Overall, it was amazing. I am glad that I went to all 3. I met new friends. I saw a bunch of Andrew friends I already have. So it was a lot of fun.
So you get in the car, and we've talked a little bit about some of the things you did, but I didn't ask you, did you listen to Andrew McMahon and Something Corporate music on all your travels, or did you mix it up?
No, I definitely mixed it up. I listen to a lot of podcasts when I'm driving by myself. So I actually listened to the Alistair interviews. Alistair's the band that opened for Something Corporate all weekend. And I listened to the interviews on the High School Never Ends podcast, all of them. I think he's been on there. I think the lead singer's been on there 3 times. So that was a good chunk. I listened to One Hit Thunder, Krista Makes a Podcast. So I was just listening to different podcasts mainly, but with a little music sprinkled in here and there when I needed a break from people talking.
Cool. All right. So you get to Cleveland, and you actually were meeting up with friends of mine from college that you've gotten to know. So shout out to Brittany and Craig for meeting up with Steve and having this experience with them. They'd actually come to Columbus last December and gone to a concert with us. So it was great that you got to go up there where they live at and see them. So you get there, and then what was the plan?
They live about a half hour outside the city. It was perfect, and they graciously allowed me to stay the night in one of their rooms. So it worked out really well. You know, again, I wish you had been there with us because all 4 of us going to the concert together, but it didn't work out this time. Hopefully, we're hoping that we get to all go to an Andrew show together again sometime soon, like we did last December. But we drove up to the venue, and we decided to go to Southern Tier Brewing for happy hour. So we arrived at Southern Tier, and parking was not hard to find. We were able to park right outside of it. And there was no real organized happy hour. So that's what I was a little bit surprised by. So Something Corporate, the band or the management, announced these happy hours. And there were a couple of drink specials themed after Andrew McMahon. There was the She Paints Me Blue and a Death Grip. A couple of us ordered Death Grips. But there was no really way to identify other fans around us. So we just kind of sat at a table and did our own thing, which worked out well because I hadn't seen Brittany and Craig in a while. And eventually Connie joined us. So Connie is a fan that I met back at 4 Chord, and she was on the 4 Chord recap back in June. And once I ended up with that extra ticket for Cleveland, I had messaged her because I remember her telling me on that episode, I'm not going to go to Cleveland because I don't have a ticket. But if an extra one ends up popping up for face value, I'll go. And I was like, well, I have one for face value. Perfect. So she drove out from Pittsburgh and met us there at Southern Tier. She had dinner with us.
I want to, how was the Death Grip drink? Because it sounds pretty serious.
Yeah. I mean, it was a pink margarita. So, yeah.
Does it really match the
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it didn't really match what you know, it's not like it was like this painful shot or something
Yeah.
that you take, what you might expect.
You know, like Goldschlager that burns on the way down or something.
You
It
would
wasn't
think you would think a Death Grip would burn and hurt you, but it was not like that at all. Maybe it was more of like a thematic grip on you because it's so tasty. I don't know.
Okay, way to
Yeah,
make that work.
It's got a grip on you. It tasted good. It was
Okay.
good. So it was worth it. Usually at a brewery I would order a beer or a flight, but I don't know, I felt like I should keep on theme.
Yeah. So did you see anybody else with Something Corporate shirts on or?
Yeah, we definitely did. So you could look around and you could see people with Andrew or Something Corporate shirts on, or like other emo, pop punk, or era bands. But it wasn't really a conducive atmosphere to socializing. It was more of like a dinner setup. So you'd just sit down and you'd order your food from your waitress. So we just stuck to our own table with that.
All right. So you went to happy hour. I assume you went over to the venue from there.
Yeah.
Did you make it for the openers? Were you just getting there in time for Something Corporate to come on?
Yeah, the timing actually worked out really well. We were a little iffy on whether our waitress would make it back in time with our bill, but the timing kind of worked out perfect. So we walk around the corner to the venue, and we walk in, and we got in with plenty of time before. So Zach Clark opened the show. he didn't even go on for like 15, 20 minutes after we walked in. So we had a decent spot in the crowd, but we weren't right up near the barricade or anything. Hopefully, Brittany, Craig, and Connie were all happy with where we stood, but I was pretty good with where we stood. I had a pretty decent view. Of course, it was that situation where people are kind of like, by the time Andrew came on later, people were kind of shuffling in front of you, and you kind of got to deal with that, but that's in any general admission crowd. For the most part, the crowd was pretty friendly. I know that people were talking about how at the southern shows like Atlanta and Orlando, there was some not-so-friendly people in the crowd.
Yeah, but that made me a little bit nervous.
So we had a pretty good spot, and we also ran into another former guest of the podcast, Betsy. So Betsy from Pittsburgh actually came and said hi. That was cool. So Betsy and Connie and I all took a picture together. We watched Zach. Actually, I think I liked Zach more that time than I have in the past. It was just him and a keyboard, and he played a couple of new songs, which I really liked. And I'm looking forward to, if the timing works out, seeing him on the boat. It was funny. Later, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but later on in the night, I saw him outside, and he said, I'm up against Rocktail Hour with Andrew, so it's going to be a hard pull from Andrew fans for people to come down to my set. And he's like, tell everybody. So I was like, I will tell everybody. But I'm sure it'll be a nice intimate show with Zach on the boat if it's during Rocktail Hour.
It was Zach and Alistair the same opening bands for all three that you went to?
Close. So Alistair opened for all 3 nights. They're a punk band out of Chicago. I would call them punk more than pop punk. So I don't think you'd like them much. I really enjoy their music. And I've heard them a little bit before. I saw them at 4 Chord a couple of years back and enjoyed them, but I never really deep dived into their music until recently, and I was really excited to see them. So there was definitely a vibe change when Zach on a piano left the stage,
yeah.
And then Alistair came out, and they like ripped into their punk songs. The crowd was really energetic. It was fun. So by then, the crowd was getting a little tighter. Like I said, there were some kind of tall people in front of us. I'm kind of like average to just less than average for, height. So sometimes it can be hard to see, but I usually make it work. I do feel badly for short people in the crowd, though, because
welcome to my world.
Like yourself. Yeah.
It's very frustrating.
I just cannot imagine trying to see in a crowd like that. So hopefully everybody I was with was able to see, though. I know Betsy got up front, actually. So after she said hi in between bands, she went up front to her spot. She had got there earlier than we did. But yeah, I think we all had a decent view. But the crowd was so energetic. Like when Alistair was going, there was a guy next to us that flew in, I think from Austin, Texas, he said. I didn't catch his name, but he was an Andrew fan, a huge Alistair fan. And the reason he flew to Chicago was because Alistair wasn't opening his Andrew dates.
Oh.
So he was really there for Alistair.
Interesting.
And that wouldn't be the last Alistair fan I met over the weekend that flew in for the show. There was a couple that flew into Detroit and went to the Chicago show as well, just for Alistair. So, yeah, they have some pretty dedicated fans. A lot of people may not know this. They don't tour right now. They haven't really toured regularly in years. So it was a pretty special occasion for them to come back together. And apparently they came back together for the Something Corporate tour.
Cool. Okay, so Something Corporate comes out,
and they opened with She Paints Me Blue, which I thought was an odd choice, honestly. I love the song. It's off of my favorite Something Corporate album. Everybody knows that listens to the show. But it's kind of a slow jam to start off a set with. I was really expecting more of a heavy hitter, more of an in-your-face, smack you in your face type of song. But man, the energy in that room when they came out was incredible. It was a very positive energy, like I said, because Something Corporate hadn't been in Cleveland in so long, just like all these out-of-office dates. They hadn't been around in so long that I think everybody was just so happy to come back together again. I heard stories of people coming back together with their high school friends, college friends, whatever, that hadn't, seen shows together in a while. So it was just this very, like I said, celebratory mood. And when they came out and started playing She Paints Me Blue, it was just fun. Everybody was just kind of getting into it. But the energy to me really picked up with the next couple of songs. And I'm not going through the whole set list. Of course, that would take forever. But they went from She Paints Me Blue. And I should have warned everybody that this is going to have set list spoilers. I think that's okay by now because there's only a couple shows in the tour left. I think we're past that point, but if you don't want to hear any setlist spoilers, you may want to return back to this recording in about 2 weeks. But they did come in heavy with Space and I Want to Save You, and then they followed it up with Fall. I'd say 3 of their biggest, like, heavier, faster songs, more energetic songs right in a row. That, in my opinion, was probably the way they should have opened the show, with those 3. But I don't know. Maybe it was just kind of a, getting the crowd in, bringing the crowd in with that She Paints Me Blue early on. So I thought it was an interesting choice, though.
Good. Any surprises in the set?
Definitely. I don't always expect to hear As You Sleep, and that is one of my favorite Andrew McMahon songs of all time, one of them. It is my favorite Something Corporate song. And when they played that, I was really happy. They had played it in Vegas for us last year. I guess I'm just surprised it became a regular staple in the Something Corporate reunion, because I always thought of it as a deep cut, even though it's track 1 on, one of their 2 albums. I never thought of it as something they'd normally play, but I was really happy they played that. The other thing is they did play Babies of the 80s, which not everybody knows that song because it's an older one, and I was kind of surprised that I'd say the majority of the crowd didn't seem to know it or be too into it, but it is a really deep cut. Andrew said, hey, even if you don't know the song, the visuals are fun. And he was right. Like, it was all like nostalgic 80s stuff. I had seen the video on YouTube that people posted from last December, so I had a sneak preview of that, but it was really cool to see in person. Something I haven't mentioned here, anybody who's gone to the show knows it. Anybody who hasn't may not. The visuals are just stunning, and you got to see them last year.
Yeah.
So the piano lights up, very colorful. Sometimes there's pictures on the piano. There's these different visuals. Some of them are very psychedelic. I don't remember it being so psychedelic. Like, I was like, okay. I was like, it's kind of making my head feel weird to look at these colors sometimes because they were swirling, and especially when you're up closer, which, we'll get to later. The other surprises, so I guess Happy wasn't a surprise, but they did play Happy. And I only say this because I hadn't heard that song live before. They did not do that one back at 4 Chord. But the biggest surprise of the night was right after when they came back for the encore. Each night, spoiler alert, each night they played what I'll call an acoustic or whatever you want to call it. I don't know if you call it acoustic when it's on a piano, but song after the encore each night. They came back and Andrew played Miss America off of North, which was really, really special. It's a slow song toward the end of North. It is, I love the song just as much as I love most of the songs on North, but I had never heard that song live before. And I double checked because I was like, well, maybe I heard it back in 2005 or something. And I looked back at the set list of the concerts I've gone to, and I had never seen it. So basically I saw, I think, 4 songs for the first time that night that I'd never seen before. Yeah, Babies of the 80s, Happy, Miss America, and Drunk Girl. And some people I was with were like, you've never seen that song in concert? And again, I went back and looked, and I hadn't. He just doesn't play it regularly. And these are songs that he doesn't play as Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness either.
True, because I don't know them as well.
Yeah, so he's not playing them in his regular sets on his regular tours. Pretty neat to go to a show, and they played 22 songs, and 4 of them I've never heard in concert before.
But still no Break Myself.
Still no Break Myself. I'm not going to complain. I'm not even going to spend time complaining. I got 4 new songs. It was amazing.
All right. Well, I know we got to get to the other cities, but any favorite moments from the show that you can share?
I would say As You Sleep, Miss America. I always enjoy Only Ashes. That's so much fun. Like, that's where he comes off the stage and he gets into the crowd. He actually walked pretty close to us, but I didn't. I was watching the band. I was so into the music. I think I was closing my eyes, and I opened them, and I was like, oh, he just walked by me.
He's probably like, why is like Steve has his eyes closed?
Yeah,
like,
no, I can't be the only one that does that. I mean, come on. I was like dancing and moving, but it was cool. Oh, I forgot to mention, so it was funny the way that the way crowds move. I actually got like 4 or 5 people away from Brittany, Craig, and Connie at one point, just because more people kept coming into the crowd. And I'm not a pusher and a shover. I'm like, whatever, people are coming in. I just kind of go with the flow of so I'm moving and I'm jumping around. But then for like the last 4 or 5 songs, I did make my way back over to them. And I got to say, it was so much fun, though, the whole time, like singing and dancing with Brittany and Craig and Connie, just like all enjoying the music so much. I go to concerts alone and I enjoy it, but it's kind of a different experience when you get to do that with people that love the music as much as you do.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that.
Awesome. All right, so concert ends. I'm sure you're all amped up from seeing something corporate. You go to leave. What's the plan for the rest of the night?
I asked them, and Connie had to get on the road because she was driving all the way back to Pittsburgh that night. But Brittany, Craig, and I were like, well, we don't have anywhere to be right now, and we've got a little bit of time. We got some time to hang out. So I was texting with Cody, who I've met at several of the concerts and become friends with, and he said he was waiting in line to talk to the band, and so I just figured I'd keep in touch with him, see if the band was going to come out. But I always assume it's going to be like an hour. So Brittany and Craig were like, sure, we'll wait around an hour, whatever. So we stopped by a bar, had a drink. It was actually kind of relaxing. Like, I don't usually, after a concert, just like go hang out with people and sit around, have a drink. Usually it's that whole like go to the sidewalk and wait and see what happens, and sometimes you're waiting 1 or 2 hours. We didn't. Everything worked out like almost too perfectly because we had a drink. Cody said, all right, the band's coming out. Thank you, Cody. And so we went around the corner, and we actually walked right by Josh Partington. I forgot to mention, so his whole family was there. A bunch of family members. His mother was there. So understandably, he wasn't out socializing. He was hanging out with his family. I completely respect that. So I just said hi to him as I walked by. I didn't stop him, and walked over to the line and got to the end of the line of everybody waiting. And long story short, the line actually moved really quickly. And it kind of turned into, for those last few people, us all just hanging out on the sidewalk like a big sidewalk party. I didn't really expect that. I thought it'd be more of like a, hey, nice to meet you, thank you, sign this, take a picture, bye. But the guys, minus Josh, they were all just hanging on the sidewalk for what felt like a half hour to an hour with us.
Was that the night Andrew was in his pajamas?
Yeah, oh yeah, so Andrew was in his pajamas, good point. So he was already ready for bed. But he was out on the sidewalk with us hanging out. So they just seem to be having a good time. And some people may not know that Clutch did throw the first pitch at the Guardians game that day. Mm-hmm. So we were actually talking to him about that, about how it went. And his kids were there. And so it was a very exciting moment for him. But it was just so cool to hear from him how that went. So we talked to him. We talked to Andrew for a while. Andrew did come up to me, and the first thing he said was, hey, when are we going to record another episode together?
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, so I said, hey, I don't know, I didn't know what to say, honestly. I'm not really good on the fly, so I was like, I don't know, soon, like, and so
Way to nail that answer.
I totally, yeah, not my strong suit. I was really happy to tell him what I just told you. I was like, Andrew, I saw 4 songs live tonight that I've never seen before. And I gotta say, he was really impressed with himself. Okay. He was like, really? And he was also surprised by Drunk Girl. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. The times I saw you guys back in the early 2000s, I guess I just missed that one. So he seemed really impressed with himself. But he guessed most of them. He's like, Miss America, Happy. I was like, yeah. It was fun talking to him. So we had a good time. And Brittany talked to him for a little bit too. And then we were all just kind of hanging out. And I did get all the guys minus Josh that night to sign a notebook, and we're thinking about doing another trivia game this year like we did last year for Dear Jack. If we do that, the winner will get that notebook, one of the notebooks that you made. I had all the guys sign the same page, and I did eventually get Josh's signature the next night. They all signed the front page of the notebook. Will did make the same joke he did with Ariel, who's also doing Dear Jack stuff. He was like, this is fake merch, man. And I was like, I'm sorry, Will. And he's like, and he almost like was apologetic. He was like, no, I'm sorry. I was just kidding. And I was like, no, I know. It's fine. So, because I did have fake merch that I was having them sign. So,
all right, yeah. All right.
It's for Dear Jack.
Okay.
So we got out of there after a while. We let the band go. But that was really special. That was by far the best like night on the sidewalk of the weekend. Like that was kind of the big, it was just so casual. It was like hanging out with friends on the sidewalk.
Cool. All right. Next morning, you are off to Detroit.
Yeah.
So you take off for Detroit.
Yep. Hung out for a little bit and then got in the car. And it took me a little bit longer to get up to Detroit than I thought. But I left early enough so that I actually got there about 3:30. And I didn't realize it, but my friends Jenna and Julia were already in line. So they came from Chicago. They must have left. I didn't think to ask what time they left, but they must have left very early. And they beat me to the line. So there are a couple people ahead of me. I'd say I was about 10th in line maybe. And then Dawn got there right after me. So Dawn and I waited in line together. I don't usually do the wait in line thing.
Yeah. Was there a happy hour that night or no? Like, did you give up going to the happy hour to go stand in line?
I did. And I was okay with that. I hope the happy hour went well. I don't know. A few people were texting me.
You're okay with not having another death grip?
Yeah,
drink?
yeah. I was okay with it. I mean, it was tasty, but a few people texted me from the happy hour that I knew and said it was cool and they enjoyed it, but it was like a 28-minute walk away. So I wasn't going to go. I knew I wasn't going to go all the way down there anyway. I was going to park in one spot and go to the venue. It went by faster than I expected. And what I always wondered about the wait in line thing is like, how do you go to the bathroom? How do you get something to eat? And the answers to that for me were I walked down the street and used the bathroom at Mom's Spaghetti, which is Eminem's spaghetti restaurant. And shockingly, they didn't seem to mind. So shout out to Mom's Spaghetti. We all were going in and out of there using the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't realize that people were just cool in line. They would just hold your spot. Like they're like, everybody understands you got to get out of line. The other answer was I just didn't eat, which I should have. I really regretted not eating. Other people got out of line and went down the street and got something. I held off, and I really should have just eaten. What I didn't like about the line in Detroit, and it's no fault of any fans, the State Theater, or the Fillmore, sorry, it's called the Fillmore now, were offering a pay to get in early to their state bar. I think it's called State Bar. And you could pay $30 and you could go in the bar, which would get you a little closer into the venue so that you could be first in. I am not into that. I don't pay for early entry. I don't think it's right when people have been waiting in line for hours. I have friends that wait in line all day for concerts. It's not really fair that someone can walk up at 6:30 or 6:45, pay $30 and go ahead of the line. That line was like a mile long, legitimately.
Wow.
People were coming back and being like, I can't believe how long. That's why a lot of people were paying for the early entry.
Yeah.
They were going down and they were like, I'm not waiting in that line.
Right.
I saw people on social media afterwards saying they came back later at like 7:38 and the line was still really, really long. So it did benefit me to wait in line for that reason. We were able to get right up near the front, which was cool.
Yeah, and I think this is the night that they were recording, and you actually are in the video
from
it, right? You're right up in the front, and you had a red shirt on. So
yeah, I had a bright red shirt. It was not my intention.
So we know you got barricade.
Yeah, I did get barricade eventually. We watched Zach, watched Alistair, and by the way, I think I liked Alistair even better the second night, but I think it was because I was so close up.
Yeah.
You know, especially at a punk rock show, you're like right up front and you get to see the guys, and they move around a lot. So it was very exciting, very energetic. So I was jumping up and down for Alistair, but I got super lucky because we met a couple in line who had flown in that I mentioned earlier for Alistair, and they told Jenna and Julia, hey, we're going to give up our barricade spot after Alistair's over. We're gonna go to the back. We're only up here for Alistair. And so Dawn and I were like standing right behind them, just kind of waiting.
Totally ready.
We were.
I've been beside you when you're like, if this person moves, we have to go. Like, stay focused.
But it was cool when the band walked out, when Andrew walked out, he like pointed to me and was like, he mouthed the word yeah, like kind of like he recognized me. So
the bright red shirt probably helped.
Yeah,
too.
the bright red shirt. Like, who's this guy in the bright red fake merch? That I know we're not selling on our website.
Hey, you know what though? It's going to Dear Jack, so at least the fake merch is going towards a good thing.
Yeah, I have a shirt that says SoCo Era on it, and it has every Something Corporate song they've ever recorded plus some on the shirt.
Okay, so let's back up for a second. So Zach Clark and Alistair, you said you enjoyed Alistair more the second night, but did they do the same sets? Did they change anything up?
They did pretty much the same set. They changed the order of some of the songs. They might have changed a song or two. I don't know them well enough to know. I think Zach played the same set, though, which is ironic because I talked to him about that on Thursday night, and he joked. He was like, I guess I got to change the set if you're coming tomorrow, too. I don't think he did, but, to be fair, he was playing the whole Something Corporate set. He had a set like 6 or 7 songs. And again, I really enjoyed his set that night, too. That was really cool to hear. So enjoyed Zach Clark and Alistair both immensely the second night, too.
Cool. All right, so you're up at the barricade. What did they open with the second night? She Paints Me Blue again? Did they change it up?
So the opening song for the second night was much more energetic and fitting, in my opinion. It was Straw Dog.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Obviously, kind of like starts off slow but gets heavy in the middle. And I thought that was a really good opener. but surprising. I may be wrong. I'm just going to take a guess here. That may be what they opened with at Four Chord as well back in June, but I'm not sure, and I'm not going to look it up. But then they went into I Want to Save You, which, again, just like the previous night, which I think is a good choice for the beginning of the set. It's a really energetic song. I really felt that should have been the opener.
You were really judgy about these opening songs.
But I don't have the PhD in setlist creation like Andrew does, so what do I know? He knows what he's doing. Yeah, the opening song was a good choice, in my opinion.
All right. Any song surprises on Detroit night?
They did play some things that were different. They played Down, which I had seen. We saw last year in Vegas. It's a little bit of a slower song on North, but I really do like it. And it doesn't feel like one of those songs, even though despite it's slower, it doesn't feel like one of those songs that slows down the whole thing. So it was in a really good spot toward the beginning of the set. But they played Fall again, and I'm beginning to realize that, I think I always knew this, but Fall is probably one of my, up there with As You Sleep as one of my favorite Soko songs of all time. So I'm really glad they played that. They did play Ruthless, both in Cleveland and in Detroit, and I forgot to mention that with Cleveland. Great song, absolutely love it, was really glad to hear it. I was surprised they played Drunk Girl again, so I guess that was if you're asking for surprises, that was a surprise. I didn't know that was going to be like an every night thing. And then the other surprise was they did play Wait, which I probably saw that song live before, but it'd been a long time. That's a Josh Partington song. It's acoustic. It's just Andrew and Josh. They played that instead of Miss America this time. They played that after the encore, and that was really special. Being right up on that barricade kind of felt like a storyteller session. I don't usually I've said this before, I don't usually take full videos at concerts, but I always give myself maybe just one. And so out of the whole weekend, that was the only one I recorded the whole song of. Because I was right up front, I had a good angle, and Andrew was telling stories. So I was able to capture two stories, one at the beginning of the song, one in the middle of the song. That was, to me, was a really special moment of the set.
So looking at this, it's interesting. It looks like only the fourth song, Fall, and the 16th song, Happy, were the only songs that were in the exact same spot.
Oh, really?
If I'm glancing over this correctly. So I just find that interesting. So I'm excited to see the Chicago one, see if that happens again. Like, are those always in that spot? And is there a reason?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I do like how they mixed it up, just like I mentioned with Alistair. I liked how they just kind of put the songs in different order to kind of keep it interesting, even though it was some of the same songs. They played all the ones that you would expect. They did play The Astronaut, and I got to make a comment about The Astronaut because, and this is going to be probably, there's going to be a lot of people who disagree with this statement, but I felt this way for the first time last year in Vegas, and I feel like The Astronaut kind of slows down the set in a way I don't like. Despite the fact that I like songs like Wait, and I like As You Sleep and Down, for some reason, The Astronaut doesn't hit as well with me in concert. But they played it each night, and I kind of just took that moment to breathe. And it doesn't all need to be high energy, so it was good. But I was good with that.
All right. So, any favorite moments from the show?
Actually, Fall was my favorite moment from this show. I just remember going absolutely nuts.
It's because you knew it was coming. You were like, "Oh, it's song 4. It's going to be Fall."
Maybe. But I have a good guess on which song I was singing in the video that they captured me in.
Oh, yeah.
I was going like really nuts in the front row. It was probably me singing Fall because that just, I don't know, it felt so special in that moment to hear that song. And I think I love how into it the band gets. Like, I love watching Josh and knowing, I think it's special too because obviously I got to talk to him about that song, knowing that it's his song, how he feels about it, what his interpretation of it is, what it means to him. I just feel so extra special connected to that song now that every time I see it, starting in Vegas last year, it's been really special. 21 Invincible was another standout at Detroit. That was a lot of fun to sing along to. Well, there's one more surprise.
Oh, okay.
So, completely out of something corporate character in my opinion, but Andrew played a snippet of Sarah McLachlan's Building a Mystery.
I don't feel like you told me this.
No, I didn't, because I just remembered it. And yeah, it just kind of came to me because it didn't happen at either of the other two shows. Yeah, it was just really random. I don't know why. I don't even know which song it was during. It was during a song or after a song. I don't know. And he just like went into the chorus of Building a Mystery on piano and sang it.
Good thing.
Everybody sang along.
Good thing you're recording this, so everybody will remember now.
I would have understood more if Sarah McLachlan was from Detroit. I don't think she is. So I don't know what the connection is there.
Huh, Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. After the show?
So after the show, Jenna, Julian, Dawn, and I went. Dawn bought a poster, and then we headed out to the sidewalk. And there was a crowd already out on the sidewalk out front. I was really shocked. Brian Ireland and William Tell were just standing out there taking pictures of people right outside the main doors. So as you couldn't walk out the main doors without walking past the crowd that was in line basically to talk to them. So I took Dawn's picture for her, and I shook both their hands and said thanks, and we moved on. But that was cool. It just shows how personable they are, and how much they appreciate the fans to just come out and take some pictures. But I walked around the back. I'm usually not a signature person, like signatures on merch.
Unless I pressure you into it.
Yeah, but I
may have pressured him into this one.
I had a goal, so I had to get some things signed that we're giving away. Again, for our Dear Jack event, we're doing a scavenger hunt the morning before the cruise. So we had to get some things signed as prizes by Andrew. But also the notepad that I want to give away for trivia was missing Josh's signature. Right. So I was kind of like freaked out. I was like, well, I can't give this notebook away without one of the band members' signatures. Right. It'd be weird to have 4 out of 5 of them.
One of the band members that's like written some of the songs too.
Yeah, pretty key member. Right. So I did catch Josh out back. He just kind of came through the crowd, said hi to a few people, took some pics. I didn't get a picture of him or anything like that. My mission was just to get signatures, and I said thank you, and I told them both it was for Dear Jack. I didn't want to take up their time, so I didn't take up any of either Andrew or Josh's time. But I'll tell you what, I really enjoyed just watching all the fans who, not everybody gets to, see these guys, a couple times a year. Or meet them on the sidewalk. So it was just kind of cool seeing that and kind of acknowledging that. I'm very fortunate that I've been able to see them several times in the past year, and not everybody gets that. So this is like their big show. So I just kind of took a moment to kind of take all that in and watch everybody else have a good time, talk to some other fans. There was a guy whose wife was waiting to talk to Andrew, and I don't think he was a big fan, it seemed, because he was like, oh my gosh, referring to Andrew, he was like, this guy just like works so hard. He's out here talking to every one of his fans. He seems to really care. He's like, I just cannot believe how hard this guy works. And I was like, absolutely. But yeah, so after the show, I went and met my best friend Dan, who of course you know, for a beer.
Well, wait, didn't you deliver some Buckeyes first?
Oh yeah. Marci made Buckeyes for Dear Jack, and my friend Dawn, who I went to the show with, one of the people I went to the show with, gave us a Dear Jack donation and bought some Buckeyes. So.
Right, and they had to travel state lines.
Yeah, and so I had to go back. She took me back to my car, hand off the Buckeyes. I think she thought she was being carjacked for a moment because I went to get her Buckeyes, and then I shocked her when I opened her door and here they are.
Oh,
and she had this look, and I felt so bad. She looked terrified. So sorry.
Okay. All right. So then you met up with your friend Dan.
Yeah. So then I met up with Dan at a bar for a beer, and this was really special. So this has nothing to do with something corporate or Andrew McMahon or anything, but the timing couldn't have been better. I was in Detroit, and my best friend of almost all my life was buying his first house, and that's actually why he didn't go to the Something Corporate show with me. I had a ticket for him that I ended up selling on the Face Value Marketplace or whatever. And because he ended up closing on his first house at 5 o'clock that night. And so we went and had a celebratory drink at about 2 a.m. And a pizza, which was essential because I was starving.
I bet.
So he let me sleep on his dad's recliner overnight, because I'm not picky. And then woke up in the morning, got breakfast, and I got to go see his new house.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Great way to end the Detroit section. So you're leaving Detroit, you're off to Chicago, it's Saturday.
And so as late as I left Dan's new house, it was noon or maybe 12:30. I didn't intend to stay that long, but we were having a good time just checking out the house, talking to his sister, talking to my other best friend, Mike. And they were starting to say, are you sure you're really going to Chicago? I was like, I don't know whether I'm going to Chicago now.
I was even texting you which direction are you driving right now?
Yeah, and honestly, the whole way, so all across Michigan, I was like, should I go? It just feels really far out of the way. But I was also really excited because there was even more people going to the Chicago show that I knew that I was going to join in line. So I was really excited to see them all and experience a concert with all of them. Some of them who I had seen at the Detroit show, but others I hadn't. And that's really what drove me to go over anything else. Obviously, I wanted to see Something Corporate a third time, but it was more the social thing. driving into Chicago was not the easiest. I had to find parking, oh, you helped me reserve that spot.
I was gonna say, wait, you had to find. I got you the spot.
No, but I did have to find it. So
that's true.
So Marci was like my person on the computer at home because I couldn't do it while I was driving, and she was reserving a spot for me on the computer while I'm driving. And I don't know if anybody else has ever used Spot Hero or something, or one of those, but she did find me a spot. But I didn't realize it was in like some back alley behind someone's apartment, and it was very difficult to find. It took me about 20-25 minutes just to find the spot with the right marking on it, because you probably know this, but if you park in a downtown area in a spot that you're not reserving, you're going to get towed. I actually saw a car getting towed as I was looking for my spot, so I didn't want that to happen. I didn't want to be stranded in Chicago. I did find my spot, and I actually took a scooter down to the venue. That was fun.
That does sound fun.
Yeah, I was like, this is kind of fun. I don't know. We did that in Nashville like 5 years ago. I've now driven to Chicago. I walked a ways, saw a scooter, so I jumped on that. It was like almost 2 miles away from my car. So you did a good job at the spot.
Well, there wasn't a ton left.
Yeah.
When you...
I would have paid over $50 to park up there near the venue. So saved a little bit of money paying $15 2 miles away and taking a scooter for $6 up to the venue.
So you made it. Did you wait in line again?
Oh, yeah. So I got there at like 4:30 Central Time. Despite the 10 o'clock doors time, there was already a decent line, but fortunately I knew them all.
Makes it a little bit easier and more fun.
Yeah, so I got lucky there that the 8 or 10 people in line were all friends, and so I got in line with them. The Alistair people, the couple from the night before, showed up, so they got in line next, and then Dawn got there shortly after, and then the line started growing, of course, as the night went on. But that was fun. So like, there was like a coffee shop nearby. There was restaurants on that block. I was gonna say,
did you eat this night? Did you learn from the previous night?
Yeah, I did end up eating, and I ended up getting a coffee, although I really regretted it just in the way, because I was tired. But I was like, oh no, now I'm going to have to go to the bathroom. What do you do when you're at the barricade in a tight crowd and you have to go to the bathroom?
Hold it.
Yeah, Fortunately, I sweated it all out.
Well,
and
I'm
never
also
had to go.
short, so like I have this additional challenge. If I leave, like trying to get back through is extra challenging. So.
Yeah, I didn't want to find out what it was going to be like to have to go to the bathroom in between bands or even at the beginning of something corporate and fight my way back to the barricade. I just didn't see it happening. So, but I met some fun people in line. So I met Tammy, who had reached out ahead of time to coordinate a ticket. Besides meeting new people in line, I saw Laura and Julia and Jenna were there, Stephanie and Stewie, Lindsay and Diane came by, but she was toward the back of the line because she did end up going to the happy hour. But the line got pretty long. I was very glad we were up front. So I ended up with extra tickets. Laura's friend bought one of them off of me ahead of time. And so I knew I was going to sell that, and they met us there. But I was surprised at how many people were looking for tickets just walking by. And so fortunately, we knew people that did have extra tickets, and we just kind of coordinated with them. But again, you had to walk in with that person who had the ticket in line. Right. It was kind of complicated, but I think we ended up getting 2 more people in on tickets that were available on other people's accounts. But we got into the show. I did get barricade right off the bat, but the venue was really cool. So in Detroit, the Fillmore was huge, right? It has this huge ceiling, very big and open, huge balcony. This place was more like a small club. And so it definitely felt more intimate, a little bit more like what I might call a punk rock club or something. But I was able to get right up, and I had kind of a different angle of the piano. I was to the left of the piano, whereas in Detroit I was to the right. So all 3 nights I had different angles, so that was pretty cool.
That's cool. Did Zach Clark and Alistair play?
So no Zach Clark tonight. Alistair was amazing. Alistair's from Chicago, so this was like their hometown show. Oh wow! Yeah. So there were a lot of people there to see Alistair. Very energetic, just amazing. I've said it a couple times already. They're just a great band. I highly recommend them if you're into punk music.
So Something Corporate comes out at what time was it?
Geez. Yeah, and I kept forgetting leading up to it that it was a, quote, late show. So doors opened at 10. Alistair went on at 11. Something Corporate went on at midnight.
Wow.
But do you know what time midnight in Chicago is for me?
1 here, so it's midnight in Chicago. But that's 1 a.m. at home.
Yeah, when they came out, it was 1 a.m. for me. Yeah. So I was I was feeling the energy. I was feeling the adrenaline. I did fine. But I was a little worried I was going to get tired, which explains why I got coffee earlier. Local time midnight, my time 1 a.m. They come out, and what do you think they open with? Not what I expected.
I don't I don't
So
know. If
it's
you see
late
Jordan,
at night.
I feel like they've ended with If You See Jordan, so they flip it around and start with If You See
Yeah,
Jordan.
they always ended with If You See Jordan or I Woke Up in a Car, which I think those were good enders. It was always Constantine second to last each night, and it was either I Woke Up in a Car or If You See Jordan second or last. But they opened with As You Sleep,
Oh.
which
How did you feel? Did you agree with the opening choice this time?
I'm not going to complain. I love that song. You can Something Corporate and Andrew can play that song anytime, anywhere, in any set, any order. I love this song. So it was good. It was cool. But it was, a slower song to start. But they went to Hurricane second, so they really picked up the energy there. And I would call Hurricane like a quote-unquote hit of Something Corporate. So I was surprised by, them playing that so early. But yeah, As You Sleep and Hurricane as the 1 and 2 on the set was, I thought, a good choice.
Yeah, and 4 and 16 actually changed, so they
Yeah.
didn't stick with that.
They played Astronaut a little earlier, maybe a little too early that time. They kept 21 and Invincible and Ruthless. Fall was equally amazing. I really think Fall was like my favorite moment of the weekend, to be honest, because I kind of keep coming back to that.
Any standout moments from this night?
They played Wait again acoustic. That was cool. Constantine felt even more special the third night, I think, because...
Oh, is this with the necklace there? Is this the one the necklace was at?
Yeah, so he got the necklace after, and just the energy in the air, Constantine felt a little more special that night. But I'll tell you what, I haven't gotten sick of seeing Constantine in concert. It's a 9.5-minute song, and I'm not sick of it, and I've seen it. Well, I'll talk about that more in the wrap-up, how much I've seen it and how I want to keep seeing it. But
Okay, so I should keep my feelings to myself on that one.
maybe you should, yeah. Maybe you should just, yeah.
I think I'm on the opposite. I'm on the minority.
I understand. They can fit in 2 or 3 more songs in place of it. But yeah, they played Me and the Moon. They played most of their songs that we already talked about, Watch the Sky. They played a very similar set list. Miss America, they had only played the first night. The songs they played all 3 nights, As You Sleep, all the ones you might expect, Drunk Girl, Happy, Kavanaugh Park, Astronaut, Only Ashes, Fall, a lot of the songs they played every single night. So I was very pleased with the set list, except for the surprises I've talked about. The rest were expected. I mean, they only have 2 full albums, so
Right.
there's not like a huge catalog to pull from here. It's always interesting to me seeing Something Corporate versus Andrew Man in the Wilderness, where you get kind of the variety show of all 3. Oh, yes. So you mentioned the Constantine necklace. So you may know that some people in the Midwest in the past year, about a year ago, created the 72-foot Constantine, call it what you want, necklace, giant bracelet, rosary. I've heard of it called some different things out there. There is a website dedicated to it, but what we did was we each did part of it and then shipped it around to different people's houses.
Our kids even did part of it.
Yeah, the kids worked on it. There's pictures of us doing it on the website. But Andrew actually took it at the end of Constantine, put it on him, and then he talked about it. And he said that it's traveled all around the country, which it has. It's been in Madison, Wisconsin. It's been in Anaheim, California, now in Chicago. I thought it's been somewhere else. It will be on the cruise as well. And it's 72 feet long, so if you wrap it around you like a necklace, it looks like this giant, I don't know what. But Andrew wore it.
Some serious bling.
Yeah, he actually played all of I Woke Up in a Car after he talked about it with it on. He actually jumped off the piano with it on. So it was some great photo ops and video ops opportunities for that. It was really fun. It felt really special to be connected in that way. I think he gets a kick out of it. I think the band gets a kick out of it. They're always like, what the hell is this thing? Like,
didn't one of them somebody say like it probably smells and needs washed or
yeah,
something?
Yeah. Well, Andrew made a joke about it. He's like, it's getting a little funky. And that's how he went into it. It's traveled all across the country. I think you need to wash this thing.
Other thing that I thought was cool that you told me about and we haven't hit on, but I know that the Dear Jack Raise Your Voice challenge is going on right now, and each night they auctioned off something to raise money, right?
Oh, yeah, drumhead.
Yeah.
So a drumhead with all the guys' signatures on it, and they raised like $3,000 to $6,000 per night just based on donations to the QR code. And they did say that at the Detroit show, they said that was the highest highest amount raised. I think it was like $6,000 just that night. Actually, the guy who won the drumhead at Detroit was standing like 3 people away from me on the barricade. So that was pretty cool to see them give it to him.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. I think that was a very good move for Dear Jack to do that, because at each show they raffled one off basically, and I think they made a lot of money on that. So for the foundation.
All right, I'm gonna rapid fire like 3 questions at you to wrap up the Chicago show.
All right.
Okay. Did you all get a group photo at the end?
Oh yeah, I think there's like 12 or 15 of us stayed afterward, got a picture in front of the stage. So I'll post that online along with my other pictures.
All right. Did the band come outside? At what time was it now?
Oh, so now it's after 2 a.m. The show ended at 2 a.m. pretty promptly at 2 a.m. and went outside, and actually the tour manager, it was so kind of him, he knew we were out there waiting. Aww. So he comes out and he says, "Hey, just wanted to let you know that Andrew will not be coming out tonight, and I hope you understand." And we were like, "Oh, we totally understand." Like he's been doing this 3 nights in a row, and he's got Riot Fest the next day, and it's 2 a.m, so that's cool. So
all right.
We just kind of made our way out of there, stopped at McDonald's for some French fries, and made our way back to our cars.
Okay, last one for your rapid fire. You get back to your car. Do you decide to try to drive home and then end up waking up in your car?
Yeah, so I was offered a place to stay, but it was a little out of my way. And so what I did was I got in the car, and I knew I wasn't going to make it all the way home. That would have been stupid. My decision was to get in my car, drive out of Chicago into Indiana, which I didn't realize how close the Indiana line is to Chicago.
Super close.
It's like right at the edge of the city. And so got into Indiana, was starting to get tired. I don't like to drive late at night. I don't like to be unsafe. So as soon as I started to get really tired, I pulled over at a rest area. And I didn't know a lot of people did this, but there was like 10 different people. I looked around. It looked like people were sleeping in their cars, so I felt pretty safe. I slept until the sun came up, and I woke up in my car.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we've covered a lot of songs, a lot of memorable experiences from your travels to 3 different Midwest shows. I know you're excited when you got home. You shared all of these experiences with us, but, kind of wrapping it up, what would you say, thinking about, I know you mentioned Constantine and some of those moments, like your final thoughts from the weekend?
I'd say Fall was the most memorable song in the set completely, but having As You Sleep all 3 nights was pretty darn special as well. Miss America, I'll go back to, was pretty special to hear. And I didn't really even give any love yet to Happy. That's Andrew and Something Corporate's newest song. And I thought it sounded really good in concert. And I would love to hear that one on the boat, too.
Ooh, all right. So you ready to plan for what's coming to Miami?
Yeah, so I mentioned Constantine earlier. And I've now seen it in concert 9 times in the past 3 years. I went back and counted because I was like, I was talking to somebody in line in Detroit, and they were like, "Oh, we've never seen Constantine in concert." I was like, "You haven't?" And again, I'm like, okay, I'm just spoiled, because we saw on the Rock Boat, we were there for 11/11. Then at the Hello Gone Days tour, we saw 2 shows, and then obviously last year in Vegas, and then I've seen them 5 times since. Again, feeling very lucky here. I was like, so if they play it on the boat, which they will.
It's
in the Something Corporate set.
It's Something Corporate.
Well, here's the cool thing. If they play it in the Something Corporate set, that'll be the 10th time in 3 years. If they play it on 11/11, in addition to that, it'll be the 11th time that I've seen it in 3 years.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I'm a dork, but I'm okay with it. I'm super looking forward to the cruise, as you can imagine. But honestly, I'm good without going to a show for a few weeks. Like I
never thought I'd hear you say that.
Yeah, and I'm sure you appreciate that I need to take a little bit of time off of road tripping out to other states for concerts. So I've been very fortunate lately to do this. We're going on the cruise next month. I mentioned the scavenger hunt that we're going to do on the morning of. So if you're going on the boat and you want to do a scavenger hunt, it'll be cool because it'll get you interacting with other Andrew fans, maybe people you know, maybe people you don't. The theme is kind of like the people you meet at an Andrew McMahon show.
Yeah, you're not going to be looking for specific like items that you gotta find and pick up that's like hidden somewhere tricky. Like, I mean, I feel like we can give like a clue. Like one of them is gonna be find someone that has a something corporate Jax or Andrew tattoo and get a selfie with them. So it's kind of things like that. So if you're listening to this, you just got a clue on what one of those items is gonna be.
Yeah, so I actually kind of wish I could play, but I know all the answers, so I can't. So we will know a lot of people on that boat. We're really looking forward to it. That'll be the next time we see something corporate. We'll also see Jack's Mannequin, Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness, and...
which is what I'm more excited.
Yeah, the later stuff. I get it. And speaking of the cruise, I have a few cruise-themed episodes coming up.
Ooh, what
So,
you got?
Next week, I do have a guest on the show that will be talking about the cruise, and I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm going to keep it mum about who it is right now. It's a surprise. And then later in the month, we will have maybe one, maybe two other cruise-themed episodes, depending on what happens, with some special guests, which I think you'll all appreciate. So looking forward to that. Well, Marci, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. It was nice just to kind of tell somebody about my experience. I got to relive it.
Well, it was interesting rehearing the parts you'd already told me and hearing some new things that, you know, when you got home and hadn't slept much in the last 3 days.
Right.
It just kind of slipped your mind, or we just didn't get to talk about because you were just getting home. So
Yeah, when I saw you, I had about 12 hours of sleep over 3 nights. So that was a good night's rest on Sunday when I came home. Kind of back into the swing of things now. And like I said, just kind of resting up for the cruise. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody then. So look forward to those cruise episodes coming up.
thanks all.